Sarah, I said, I'm just going to introduce her. I know she has many hats, wears many hats, and she will tell you more about those. But I just want to say I call her a magician. She's a Thai masseuse master and teacher, and also a somatic therapist, as with many other things. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you for being here, and welcome to everyone else on the call. It's so nice to be here with you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so grateful that you decided to take an hour out of your Saturday to join me. And yeah, I'm going to be offering a couple of practices that we can start to put into place to give us a little bit more agency over our sensations, our thoughts, our emotions, especially when it comes to anxiety. And so in just thinking about feeling anxious, I'm curious if you can just type in the chat box, like, what happens to your body when you feel anxious? What do you start to notice when anxiety comes up for you? Or even just having this talk about anxiety, maybe you're noticing some things. I know for me, I can sometimes feel like my stomach is in knots. I'm seeing shallow breathing, a tight jaw, buzzing. I sometimes feel my heart racing. Does anyone else feel that too? You notice your heart rate pick up. I also sometimes feel like when I start to get anxious that I can't quite take in a deep breath. Yeah, my breath changes and my heart races. Absolutely. And so I think that the important thing to note is that a lot of this is things that are happening to your body. I think of anxiety as being a very kind of surface level feeling. It doesn't feel like that in our bodies. It can feel very overwhelming. I'm seeing tightness in my chest. Yeah. And so it can be really overwhelming. And I'm seeing someone else typed in, my mind races. And that's actually a really good note, because it's usually our mind that is causing all of these physical sensations. Anxiety for me comes up when I'm overwhelmed, when I've been taking in too much, when I've been taking on too much, when I've been telling myself something negative, like I can't do it, it's too much, I'm not enough, I don't have enough resources. And so what's good about this is that now that we have a little information as to what can cause it, we also now have a little bit of power over how to work with it. And so just to start, I'm just going to invite you, I'm just going to show you a couple of things. If anybody has a dog, mine's here, and she's like a tender little being, and you know, she has a lot of anxiety. She's a big feeler. And so, for instance, if there's a thunderstorm outside, she starts to shiver and shake, right? I would call that anxiety. And they make these things, they're called thunder jackets. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it's basically like you wrap your dog in a funny little corset, right? Like a thunder shirt. And so some of the things that I have just to offer right away that we can do instantly in a moment, as soon as we start to feel my stomach acting up, my mind is racing, that tightness in my chest, my breath can't be quite deep enough, my heart is racing, I have a buzzing. Those kinds of things are your body cues that you're feeling anxious, and we can do something about it right away. And so one of the things that I love, I call this the thunder shirt, is just to take your hands right on either side of your ribs and just go ahead and give yourself a little support. Just press in on your ribs a little bit. You can even just let your breath be really easy here. And just notice what kind of changes take place, just giving yourself a little pressure, a little support. So I usually do it with the heels of my hands facing up, fingers down, and then I just press a little bit along the sides. And then you can even start to settle your shoulders into that a little bit. So we don't want to like invite any more tightness. We just want to offer a little containment. And just notice how that kind of settles you a little. Another thing that we can do is to take your hands on the top of your head and just give yourself a little weight, a little pressure, just right on the top of your head. You might notice just trying to find what feels comfortable, which hand feels good on top of the other, or maybe it feels better to interlace your fingers and let your hands rest. Let's just go ahead and offer the top of your head a little pressure. So what I like about these two methods right away is that they're offering containment. They're offering allowance for what is. I promise you, if you start to have a sensation of anxiety, there's a really good reason for it. And we don't want to quickly numb out. We don't want to quickly escape from it. We don't want to run away. We don't want to try to fix it. You know, we want to just allow and just give it a little softness. When my dog has anxiety, when there's thunderstorms, I never yell at her. I never tell her if there's something wrong with her. I never tell her, like, why don't you just snap out of it? What's wrong with you? Instead, there's a really good reason that she feels anxious. And I have found that the things that help her are me getting really soothing with my words. You're okay, I've got you. You can even just let your arms come down and maybe just lightly just hold yourself on either side of your arms. And just try that a little bit, just with your own thoughts. It's okay. I've got you. You're okay. You're safe. I know you're totally freaking out right now, and that's all right. Just after that little practice, just offering yourself a little containment, a little pressure, a little hug, and some allowance. I'm curious if you want to type into the chat, just how are you feeling now as opposed to when we first began? Has anything changed? Did that offer anything to you that felt supportive and good? Taking deeper breaths and landing. I felt my heart rate slow down. I noticed that I was feeling a little, excitement, anxiety, just getting on here and talking to you all today. And so I felt that calm down. I felt my body land. I feel in contact with myself. I feel a settling safety is what I'm reading here. Yeah. A sense of ease. Exactly. And so just to demonstrate this point a little deeper, I think a lot of times when we notice that something feels wrong, right, that something feels wrong, we tend to try to correct it right away. I can even give this explanation. A lot of my clients come in and the things that they say are, my shoulders are always rounded forward. And then as soon as they notice that their shoulders are rounded forward, what do? They're like, and they roll their shoulders back, right? And so this is one tension. And then this is me countering it with a totally other tension. Neither are relaxed. And the same thing happens with anxiety. If we try to correct it before we allow it and understand it, we're just adding in another tension. And the two will then begin to fight. This tension against this tension. This one against this one. Anxiety against stop freaking out. Okay? And so we just want to allow. And so everybody, do me a favor and just make a fist. Go ahead and make a really strong fist. Okay. And now this fist is dedicated to being a fist. This fist is a strong fist. It's a willful fist. It is a fist that is committed to being a fist. So just feel that tightness, feel that fist. And now with your other hand, I want you to try to pry that fist open. So that fist is super committed. It wants to be a fist. Go ahead and try to pry that fist open. And just notice what happens in your fist. Notice what happens in your body as you try to like force that fist to open, right? That's you applying another tension to something that's there and tense already, okay? So now let's go back. We've got our fist, super committed to being a fist. It doesn't want to do anything else but be a fist, okay? And now invite in your other hand. And we're just going to let that hand hold that fist. We're going to let that hand support that fist. It can even squeeze that fist a little bit and just allow it to be what it is. And then maybe too, you can just like look at that fist or close your eyes and I see that you're a fist. It's okay that you're a fist. I love that you're a fist. There's nothing wrong with you being a fist. And then what happens to that fist with that allowance? Does it soften a little? It doesn't tighten up nearly as much as it did when we were trying to pry it open, right? And so this is just a beautiful demonstration of what we tend to do with ourselves, how we start to fight with ourselves, how we start to correct ourselves, how we try to fix what's wrong. When in actuality, yeah, you couldn't even tighten it when you were holding it. Yeah, it just wants to let go. And I think that anytime there's anxiety, it's really just letting us know something's not right. And we can just allow that to be there and to hold it. And so today, we're just going to give compassion. There's a really good reason for why your system feels amped sometimes. There's a really good reason for why you might not feel safe, for why you feel overwhelmed, for why you feel tired, for why you don't feel enough. And we're just going to allow it. We're going to hug the shit out of it like I would my dog when she's freaking out. And we're just going to be like, everything's cool, man. You can just be here. I see you. I see that you're freaking out. I see that you're in pain. And what happens in just allowing is it loosens. It loosens its grip. It loosens its tightness. It allows us to soften. Okay. Wonderful, everyone. All right. So I'm going to invite us all to stand up. I know that we want to like sit down and relax, but we're going to stand up and relax. And so I'll stand with you. I'm going to make sure I'm still on the screen here. Anyone else still in their PJs? All right. So allow yourself to get to a place where your hands can be free. You can allow yourself to stand. And as soon as you begin to find a comfortable place, I want you just to look down and allow your feet to be right underneath of your hips. So just exactly as wide as your hips. So not wider and not more narrow, but almost like your feet are just extensions of the sides of your hips going straight down. And then I think something really important to know here is that our muscles are what allow us to move in the world. But it's really our skeleton, our bones that hold us. Our bones are what give us our posture, our uprightness, our ability to be held against gravity. And so just allow your bones, maybe even starting with like your lower leg bones, just letting those find a place on top of your ankles. You can even offer maybe like a little bit of a knee bend. And then just allow your pelvis to settle into a place where it is right on top of your thigh bones. Your pelvis is one of the biggest bones in your body. It also holds some of the strongest muscles of your body, and you can allow your hips to hold you and to support the weight of your organs, your skeleton. You can let your shoulders drape. You can allow your head to align on top of your neck and be held there. And so next, I'm just going to invite you to bring an inner vision. And so what we're doing, I think a lot of times when it comes to anxiety, we tend to be very forward focused. Our eyes are focused on screens. We're reading terrible news. We're focused on what needs to be done. I'm going to invite you to pull your focus back. And so almost imagine that your eyes are pulling gently into your head, and almost dropping down the back of your head and settling at the base of your skull. You don't need them right now. You can let them drop in. You can invite a little bit of softness to your jaw. Our jaws have this beautiful design to them where our teeth don't actually have to touch. You can allow space to be there. I was reading too in the comments that a lot of us tend to tighten our jaw when we're stressed, when we feel anxious. So let's just allow a little softness there. And now we're going to invite in just some noticing into your links. And so what do I mean by that? We're just noticing our links exactly as it is, without the need to correct it, without the need to invite any type of tension. We just want to notice our natural links here. And as you're noticing your links, I almost like to imagine a French press, like it's pressing down and lifting up at the same time. And so you can feel into your links downward, and then you can also notice your links upward at the same time, kind of moving in opposition from your center. And just allow your bones to hold and support your links. Next, allow yourself to begin to invite in an awareness of your width, to the sides of you. Maybe you can feel into the sides of your feet. You can feel into the sides of your ankles, the sides of your calves, your knees, your thighs, the wideness of your hips. And as we're scanning up into our width, just starting to become aware of sensations. So our body communicates to us very simply. We might notice coolness or warmth. We might notice movement. That sometimes feels like a vibration or a heartbeat or breath, a pulsing. We might even become aware of pressure. And sometimes that feels like weight or tightness. There may even be spaces where we feel numb, where we feel like we can't quite connect. Let's just allow and notice. Holding what is with deep compassion and allowance. Feeling also into the sides of our shoulders, the sides of our arms, the backs of your hands. Noticing you in the sides of your neck, your jaw, your ears, the sides of your head. And so when we stand and we allow ourselves to stand in our length, this is us standing in our dignity. This is us standing with a rightness. I have value. I have something to offer. I have something to say. This is our sense of worth. And when we stand in our length, we give others the permission to stand in their dignity too. I see that you matter, and you can see that I matter. When we allow ourselves to feel into our width, this is our sense of belonging in the world. This is me spreading out and widening so that I can welcome others into my sphere. People who are safe, people who are supportive. This is my sense of belonging in the world. Now begin to invite a little awareness into your back space. And when you do that, maybe just bringing some weight to your heels. And just feeling your weight drop down into your heels. Noticing the backs of your calves, the backs of your knees, the backs of your thighs, the backs of your hips. I'm just going to pause there for a moment and bear with me. I'm going to give you an image. I want you to imagine that you have this very long and wide prehistoric dinosaur tail, okay? Dropping down off of your sacrum, stretching all the way down to the floor. And so it's wide enough that it can hold you. And it's long enough that you can lean back into it because it touches the ground and it holds you almost like a kickstand. And I want you to see the color of that tail and just allow it to hold you and just notice what that does to your belly to have that support. Bring a little awareness to your lower back, your middle back, the backs of your shoulders, the backs of your arms along the pinky side of your hands even, the back of your neck. Maybe you can notice your hair touching the nape of your neck, the back of your head. This back space, this is our ancestry. This is our family lineage. This is our history. This is all of the ways that we've been hurt, yes, but it's also all of the ways that we've healed. It carries all of the wisdom of our healing, of our family healing, of our soul healing, and we can lean back into that. Next, just begin to invite a little bit of awareness into your density, so into your wholeness. Maybe noticing the insides of your brain, the insides of your nose, the insides of your face, the inside of your mouth, your neck. You can even swallow to feel the inside of your throat. Noticing that beating of your heart. And also notice if you try to check out, if you get distracted. See if you can allow yourself to stay with the sensations in your body and to tolerate your aliveness for just a little bit longer. Tolerate those sensations, allow them to be there, allow the beating of your heart to be rooting you on with every beat. I want you to live. I want you to live. Allow your breath to be present. Find some awareness of the insides of your organs, the insides of your pelvis, the inner core of your legs, sturdy and strong. And when you're ready, invite a hand to rest on your belly just below your navel. And the first thing you might notice is the temperature of your hand. That's your belly noticing your hand. You can also allow your hand to notice your belly, just being curious about texture, curious about temperature, curious about what is. And then allow your other hand to float up to your heart, to your chest. And here, with the full support of your body and yourself, supporting yourself, allow your heart to call in a longing, something it wants for you. It can even come to you as the form of a declaration or a commitment. It can be small to let go of a tension or a thought. It can be big. And then finally, allow a light to begin to enter into your forehead, into that third eye space, into that divine knowing. Allow that light to shine brightly inward. And with that light, support all of the parts of your body. Send some light to where it feels like you need a little extra support, a little extra light, a little extra hug, a little love. When you're ready, you can begin to allow your arms to come down to your sides. And as you start to open your eyes, begin to make eye contact softly with something that feels supportive, something that feels connective, something that feels like you. You can invite that object, that image, that animal, that plant to come just a little bit closer by bringing your eyes in. And then when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to come back. And if anyone is feeling called to unmute yourself and share any of that, I'm sure as a community we would love to hear some experiences of what transpired there. How was that for you? Is there a declaration you want to share? Okay. Rachel, did you want to share?
I'll share, you know. I noticed that although it's an interesting thing, you know, being led through something like that I also lead others through. I'm saying this for context of what I experienced, which was, you know, I notice that the constant distraction, and where that lives is in my mind, which is where I feel like, and that relates to this topic of anxiety to me, you know, this constant runnings of my mind, like, and and distraction. I feel like that contributes to this anxious feeling that we all tend to get, and that when that my body gets that much less attention than my mind. It's like when I go to my body, I love being there. I can like just be, I feel it. I want to be there, you know, my body loves it when I give it this type of attention. And my mind just seems to kind of be there, like, hip away, you know, like taking, like that. And it made me think after when I opened my eyes that, you know, just thinking of the percentage of time, space, energy that we live in these kind of compartmentalized places within ourselves. And that I always like the reminder and really believe in the value for our health and well-being of like returning back to your body. Like it's always this kind of safe place to go, to like settle in, to be here now, and that's all of the things that I was feeling. So I understand that it's more of a practice. Like this is a tool, and the more we do it and spend time and energy on it, the more our body knows to be there rather than here.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. there's two things in there that I want to highlight. One is that I heard my body loves attention. And that almost feels like part of a practice for you is to say that to yourself. And I would even offer as well, like some kind of a gesture that goes with the statement. Because yes, our brains, they're so used to being online for us. This is brand new. And what I find though is that when we give ourselves not just, a mantra, something that comes from inside of us, but we also give it a movement or a touch, it starts to become embodied. And so, for me, when recently as I'm doing my scanning work, it's like I'm committed to the work of anti-racism. That's my commitment. And when I think of, well, what is the quality that I need to embody to be able to live that commitment? It's the quality of humbleness. And it's the quality of like, I'm enough. And so a lot of times, like for me, like my practice is just anytime I start to feel myself going into down the rabbit hole, whatever else you want to call it, spinning out, my practice is just to put a hand on my heart and just say, I'm enough. It's okay. And I do that practice probably like 20 times a day because I know that repetition is practice. And then this is how we start to change the neural pathways in our brain. This is how we work with neuroplasticity. This is how we start to create different connections in our mind, is by giving ourselves a phrase and a touch. And that's a practice. What I just offered for you in that centering, just standing in your length, standing in your dignity, allowing yourself to feel into your width, allowing yourself to be in a sense of belonging, allowing yourself to have a sense of your backspace, your density. It allows us then to feel safe and to land, and that's a practice that we can practice too, where, for like 5 minutes when I first wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, let me just send some breath through my length. Let me send a little into my width. And it just helps to get me centered. And then I can practice that a couple more times a day. And I promise, like, as we practice, we get better. And it's not going at it from a place of like, no, stop, this is wrong. It's instead just in a process of allowing. And what we found with allowance is that that's where things relax. Absolutely. Thank you. Does anyone else want to share anything that came up during our standing? You can even send something in the chat if you want to just give a comment as to how you're feeling different, or if you want to share a declaration. And I'll say that, a lot of times with my clients when I offer this work, declarations come pretty naturally. And what I find is that it feels like truth. It's that kind of truth that will just clear the air in the room. You just, boom, know it. It's true. It's yours. There's a reason that self-help doesn't work, because it's someone else telling you what to do and they don't know you. When you get that self-help from your body, it's personal, it's true, it lands. And so sometimes, the declarations that I've been hearing lately, like, it's okay, I love you. I feel safe in my body. My body loves attention. I love some of those. For me, like, I'm enough. And so I encourage you to also come up with some kind of a gesture that you can partner with a declaration.
Yeah. I'll share in case anyone can relate to mine also. It started feeling good, and then I got kind of warm and nauseous. Mm-hmm. Could be my period, could be an emotional week. But I was like, I better sit down. So in some ways, maybe that just needed to come up, and that like sort of just felt icky inside.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you shared that, actually, because it highlights that it's not always safe or comfortable to be in our bodies. right? And that sometimes even just giving ourselves that attention that we're not used to receiving, looking inward into our bodies, when we start to have an experience of our length, our width, we can start to get hot and nauseous. And I have had that experience before. I had a client recently who is, she's a 6'3" Black woman. She's very, large woman, and she takes up a lot of space. And for her, just to stand in her length, she felt like she was going to pass out, because that was so counterintuitive to what society has taught her to do. And so for you, there might be a shape that's actually really serving you, that is protective. Our bodies will always shape themselves for safety or efficiency. And so I think what you were having is what I would call an opening. There's nothing wrong. It was just a lot of sensation. It became a little overwhelming. And I think that sitting down was great, giving yourself that comfort, giving yourself that moment just to regroup, And when those kinds of things happen, we can always go into containment, hold my ribs. I can hold the front or the back of my head. I can put my hands on my head. I can give myself a little hug and squeeze and just offer a little containment, like you're here, it's okay. Yeah. And just give yourself that permission to land again. And so I think that that's also what I want to highlight, is that when we're doing this work, we don't want to overdo it. I don't want to stand taller than my body feels able to support. I don't want to widen myself wider than is safe for me to widen. We do have these protective shapes, and they're important, but we can also then, is there just a little millimeter more length that I can feel into for a moment? And it might also help too to do the practice with your eyes open, so that you can keep eye contact with something. I find that giving a little eye contact with plants, kind of pulling that back to me. Yeah, a little dizzy, totally. It can be a little disorienting at first. And so it can also be trying to practice lying down instead of standing up, or trying it sitting instead of standing. That might start to help too. But I also want to recommend just to keep trying it, because you will find different moments of opening. Yeah, the heat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think heat is one of the main things. Heat, I think for women, especially of a certain age, the heat is real, right? It is. It's real.
I mean, you and I are both outside, and I think that something about the heat today, it's a little bit muggy, soupy, and I think it just does that, lightheaded thing to us when we're not feeling totally our strongest.
Yeah.
Even when we are, I think the heat does something.
Yeah. So the heat for you gave you a little nausea. It made you feel a little lightheaded.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back inside.
Great.
As we're talking, I'm thinking, why am I still out here?
Yeah, absolutely. Give yourself what you need. Yeah, temperature is a strong language of the body. And so that's definitely one of the things that I mentioned, is there's heat, there's coldness, and we can start to acknowledge within our own systems what feels like too much. And when it's too much, we can back up. We can go inside if it's too hot outside. We can sit down if it's too much to stand. We can leave the party if it feels overwhelming. This is always us giving ourselves what we need in a moment. I love, what do they call it? The Irish goodbye, where you just take off and don't tell anybody that you laughed. And then send a text later. It's just peace, I'm out. So we can always give ourselves what we need. And I think that that's one of the things I also want to highlight with this practice, is that just noticing what's going on in your body. Okay, my heart is racing. What happens if I put a hand there? Okay, I'm feeling really hot. What happens if I allow myself to just sit back in my chair and maybe open my armpits? You know, what if I you can even make, I don't know if everyone's able to do this. I think it's like a recessive trait, but if people can't, but you can make a little curl to your tongue and breathe in through that funnel in your tongue. And that's just like a very naturally cooling breath. Also, when we tend to feel heat and overwhelmed, if we feel like we can't quite breathe, you know, something we can offer ourselves in that case is an exhale. Usually when we feel like we can't breathe, it's because we already have a lot of stale air in our lungs. We're over full. You know, I'm already over full. It's too much. Can I let it go? Rachel and I have a similar teacher, and he always says that our breath is our most obvious resource that's like literally right underneath of our nose. And so you can always just call that in and just be like, okay, I feel like I can't quite breathe deeply. Can I exhale all the way out? And what happens when you hold out that exhale, you let all of that air go, what happens naturally? You want to take in a breath, right? And probably even fuller than the last one that you were able to take. Yeah. Ah, dinosaur tail. Yes. How is dinosaur tail for everyone? Just to feel like you had a little bit of support. Yeah. I feel like a lot of times, like standing, you know, I think we tend to hold ourselves in different ways. I'm going to move my dress so you can see, but a lot of times we tend to like hold our hips forward, and now I'm just supporting myself in my lower back, or we tend to shift our hips back, and now I'm very like forward presenting in my chest. But if we just let our hips be supported back, that allows our skeleton to align. And I think that there is something really beautiful that happens in our body when our body registers what it feels like to be supported. Then our brains start to remember all of the support that we have. My brain can tell me, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I don't have any friends, nobody cares what I have to say. And then I can like lean back into that dinosaur tail. I can sit in my chair. Can I feel my chair holding me? Can I feel the back of my chair supporting my shoulders? And then it's like, girl, you got friends. Right? All right, what did I wanted to see? It felt good in your body to lean back a little bit. Yeah, it felt strangely familiar. Exactly. It kind of taps into that, like, you know, prehistoricness, right? The colors kept changing. I love that. I find that everybody always can have a strong color if you ask as to what color their tail is. And so one last thing that I want to offer you all is just a final send off is just one last meditation. And for this one, you can sit down or you can lie down, however you feel more comfortable. But I'm just going to invite you to sitting or lying or standing if that really worked for you. Starting to feel support. So that's the word we're looking for right now, is support. Can I feel the weight of my hips being supported by the chair? If you're lying down, can I feel the floor supporting the weight of my body? And is it okay to let my body be held right now? And as you are allowing your body, that kind of clicking down that happens as we start to slowly release our muscles into the embrace of gravity. With that support beneath you, begin to call in 4 supports. And what I mean by 4 supports is allow for people, or an animal, or an environment, or something natural, an image, just anything that feels supportive to you. Allow for supports to naturally come to your mind. And then next, allow those four supports to begin to surround you in a way where they take up a very natural position, either to the right, to the left, in front of you, and another behind you. So just allow those four supports to find their directions around you. The support to your right, that's the support that gives you strength. That support represents strength. You get so much strength from this support. The one that urges you on, that tells you you can do it. You feel a sense of empowerment from the support to your right. The support to your left, that's wisdom. That represents wisdom. That support is so wise, and they have so much to share to you and offer to you. You learn a lot by tapping into that support. The support behind you represents healing. What's the support that offers a healing presence to you, that holds you with motherly tenderness and compassion, allowing all that is and letting it be okay? That's your healing support. And the support directly in front of you, that support represents good footing, next right steps, good direction. That support shows you the way. That support shows you one step and then the next step, slowly moving forward. With these four supports around you, allow their energy to hold you, knowing that you're not alone. You have so much support around you. You can also invite in some light and some breath, breathing in to that support, seeing if you can allow your body to soften into receiving it. And with all of that support around you, begin to recall to memory a time when you felt most alive. Just one instance, one moment when you felt absolute pure joy, pure aliveness. Everything was amazing. And sometimes when we begin to visualize a memory, we can almost like take ourselves out of it and be looking at it from like a bird's eye view. I want you to embody yourself in that moment. Allow yourself to enter into your body in that memory. What was the light like? What was the temperature? The colors? Who was with you? Can you let yourself see the look on that person's face and bask in their reflection of love for you? And then can we start to turn the dial up on that sensation just a little bit. Make it like a little stronger. Allow those emotions, that mood, that feeling, that moment to deepen and get a little bit highlighted. And then you can begin to slowly turn the dial down just a little so that you can tuck that memory inside as a place that you can visit anytime you need to feel the way that you are feeling now, just in recalling it. That you can tuck these supports into your heart and you can call on them anytime you need them. And beautiful women, begin to draw in a breath and invite in a little bit of movement. And start to move, stretch, allow your body to start to freely express anything it needs to in order to slowly bring yourself back. And I want to invite you, I think everyone has a notebook or a journal close by. I want you to spend a little time after we end today just writing down what your heart had to say. Writing down what felt important about our time together. Writing down your support. Write down a couple of words that will help you recall that memory of joy and ease and aliveness. And put that somewhere special. Put it on a mirror. Write it in lipstick to yourself as a little love note. Get it tattooed on your arm. I don't care what you do with it. I just want you to see it, and I want you to start to live it, and I want you to start to truly honor it. And in finishing, I just want to open it up one last time if anyone wants to share. Even just a word, how was that to call in some support? Was there anything surprising? What happened to you when you allowed yourself to embody a memory? I know it's a vulnerable ask, but important. Yeah.
I mean, my whole body responds. You know, it shows the strength and connection between mind and body, or not connection. They are of the same, really, as the memory. So by encouraging in the supportive way for our mind to travel to places where we feel most alive or most held or most loved, I immediately notice how my body responds to that. I smile that overcomes my face. I open up my arms out wide. So that's what I noticed.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Did anyone feel a little teary or sad with their memory, just out of curiosity? Okay. I find sometimes I get a little teary because in my memory, it's people who are no longer on the planet, right? And it's a little bittersweet to kind of be with them in that moment, you know, and to be able to feel so much joy. And then also that complicated emotion of also missing it, you know, missing that time, missing what was. And I just allow it. I allow everything to be there all at once. You know, we're not this or that. We are this end. You know, we are beautifully complex beings with the ability to feel multiple, seemingly contradictory emotions at the same time. I think we can allow for them all. Anyone else feel like sharing? I had opportunities to focus on memories, and I thought of having my children. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. I wonder, Jamie, if your children came to you as supports at all. And sometimes our children show up as supports too.
I just wanted to say that I found your prompt to be interesting, when you felt most alive, because that doesn't always mean that you're just having these like overjoyous feelings, but really feeling alive is a complex state, which lends itself to our life, which is what it is. So I found that interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an important thing to focus on too, because, you know, there's so much of what we do doesn't feel alive. Like, I don't necessarily feel alive when I'm binge watching Netflix or, you know, scrolling endlessly on my phone. Like, you know, that doesn't ever come back to me, and memory is something that, you know, I want to recall. But it's always moments, and usually there's people, you know. And I think it's really important just to notice and remember that, you know, I don't think that we get better alone. I think that we get sick alone and we heal together. And so we do need people. We do need that mirror. We do need our support. And so just in this little journey together, I hope that everybody felt supported together doing this work. We're all here. We all suffer from anxiety. We're not immune to the stressors of the world. You know, I'm a healer. I do this work all the time, and yet I still have a nervous system. I still have a limbic system. I'm still experiencing everything that's going on. But in this practice, I have noticed that it doesn't affect me as much. Like, I can still be outraged. I can still be, you know, have a sense of injustice. I can still feel a sense of mobilization and duty, but from more of a place of ease, where I don't need to feel overly stimulated in my system in order to be able to go there. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So one last little thing I want to offer is, I call it the armpit hug. It gives me great joy. And it's also one of the most soothing things that you can do for yourself in a moment, other than breathing, is to take your right hand, and just bear with me, we all have sweaty armpits, it's a hot day. We're going to take your right hand under your left armpit and then just clamp down on top of that hand. And then take your left hand to the outside of your right arm. And then just allow your arms to drop. Allow yourself to drop in here. Just allow yourself to feel that embrace, feel your breath, feel the beating of your heart. Still allowing your eyes to drop down and in, your jaw to soften. And just allow yourself to be held in your embrace. Knowing that everyone on this video call is also giving themselves a big hug, and therefore we're all hugging each other. We can hold ourselves, we can hold each other, and in that capacity, we can hold space for so much more. And with that, thank you so much again for joining me today. It's always so nice to be in the presence of women dedicated to their own healing. And if you want to join me online, you can find me. I'll type in my web address. It is ThaiBKNY.com, THAI. And I am also on Instagram at Thai Brooklyn. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah, for guiding us through this hour, and for you all for being here in the spirit of allowance I hope you all can allow yourselves to recognize that you're showing up to give care to yourself. And that's a really big deal. And it's beautiful to see you continue to be here and for us to receive together. And thank you, Sarah, for your wisdom, your supportive wisdom. And we look forward to more. Continue checking in for the membership workshops and classes. And we have one next week, a transformational breath class, 8 to 8:30 on the 24th of June. It's PM, 8 to 8:30 PM Eastern Time, led by Aubrey Howard. Another beautiful practice for giving care to yourself, your breath. We love you all. Thanks again.
Thank you
so much, Sarah, and thank you, everyone. If you want to continue treating yourself when you get off, everyone on this call, if you go to Sarah's website, she makes her own products.
Oh, they're the best.
After her last workshop, I just was like wanting to be more connected to Sarah. So I bought some of her products, and they have just brought a lot of joy as well as healing to my day-to-day. So I have her foot soak and her face oil and her massage oil and her headache balm, and I've been using all of them. And I'm sharing this so from the heart, not in any sort of, well, I always like to share women's businesses, but if you're looking for treating yourself or someone else to something from a powerful woman-owned business, I highly encourage you to go check that out too.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, everyone. Remember, when we heal ourselves, we give others permission to heal too. So take that with you. Keep doing the work, and much love. Absolutely.
Love.